Welcome back to another edition of Songs of the Ozarks, a project of the Ozark Studies Institute, an ongoing initiative of the Missouri State University Libraries. My name is Emalee Flatness-Combs, and today's date is February 13th, 2024. I am so tickled to death about our special guests today. On the program, we are interviewing Mr. Jeff Michel, and he is being accompanied by Hawken Boldman. Thank you guys so much for meeting with me today.
Glad we could be here.
Mm-hmm. And this building we're meeting in is the Michel Homestead Cabin.
Yeah, it was built about 1888, right here where it sits, by my great and my great-great-grandfathers.
Wow.
Yep.
And you live right here on the property, is that correct?
Yeah, I bought the property from my grandpa's cousin in 2001. It had been in our family this whole time. My great-grandfather sold it to his brother around 1899, but it's still been in the family.
Wow, that's amazing. So would you guys mind playing a couple fiddle tunes to get us started?
Sure, that'd be great. Let's do Durang's Hornpipe. He was one of my mentors.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I've never heard it before. Is it a common tune?
It's fairly common around here.
His version, which is Ray Curbo's, isn't super common.
Yeah, his version isn't common.
Okay.
And it's everybody. That's the thing about fiddling. There could be somebody 20 back then. The people I learned a lot of my tunes from, they could live 20 miles away from somebody, and their version be totally different than the other person's. And that's how you comprehend it when you hear it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't have recordings. They just heard it one time at a music party, and they came home and worked on it, and that was their version then. So.
Did very many people back then read music?
I don't think so. Ray never read music. Wow. Yeah, he played, for 68 years he played fiddle.
Wow.
And he was my
That's
mentor.
That's a long time.
Yeah. He passed away in 2016, but I was fortunate to play with him whenever I got a chance, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He was the barefoot fiddler. He played with his shoes off.
All the time?
Yeah, he couldn't play with his shoes on. He had to play with his shoes off.
How come?
No socks. I don't know. He just didn't like to play with his shoes on.
Every time.
He had a big old beard. He was a good person, good fiddler, and just a great mentor and role model for people.
Yeah. Did you ever meet him, Hawken?
I did not. Sadly, I seen pictures and videos and recordings, but when I came onto the scene and the whole music agenda, it was a little bit just too late. So, but lots of stories, and the music in a way is kind of a neat way to be able to experience that side of him, which is kind of neat. And because Jeff does play just like him on the songs that he taught him, so very, very good.
I try to play like him.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as Ray. But I picked up a lot of his style, I guess you would say, playing with him for that length of time.
How would you say his style differentiates from other Ozarks fiddle players that might be familiar to folks?
It's almost got like a rhythmic pattern to it. A lot of his tunes that he played, he would play like 2 bow strokes per note. It was just kind of different. Sometimes you would think, oh, he sounds just like any Ozarks fiddler, and then sometimes you'd be like, he's got his own style. He lived down by the Arkansas line at Blue Eye,
Okay.
and he played with a lot of fiddlers around here over the years. He played with my grandpa Frank and others. He played with his buddy, his guitar backup, like Hawken's my guitar backup here tonight, and I'm thankful for that. And he played with his friend B.H. Tate for about 68 years. B.H. played guitar and sang, and was a great rhythm guitar player and a great singer, and Ray played with him pretty much that whole time from the time they were kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy how many of those relationships there are, like Bob Holt and Alvy
Oh, yeah.
Dooms.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon McCann.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Art Galbraith.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you two first start playing together? You and Hawken.
Well, I have a jam at the Mountain Grove Schoolhouse, which is a 1-room schoolhouse. And it started around 1980 by my grandpa Frank Michel and his friends Everett Gloyd and Johnny Boyd. Everett played fiddle and guitar. Johnny Boyd was an excellent mandolin player. My grandpa played fiddle and guitar, mainly fiddle. And then that kept going, and then around 2009, it had kind of changed into an electric jam, and not very many people were coming because it was too loud.
Gotcha.
So I changed it back to acoustic in about 2009, and Hawken started coming.
It was.
What was the first time you came?
I think it was this fall or the spring of 2019.
Yeah.
Really,
Wow.
that was. I think it was spring.
That's not a long time ago.
Yeah, about 5
About 5 years ago.
So
Mhm.
that's how long we've been
Yeah.
playing. So.
And
That's
he's
amazing.
really excelled in the guitar, the rhythm guitar, the Ozark style rhythm with the bass runs, and it's just a different lick on the guitar around here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Mhm.
At least.
Who were some of your influences on that Ozarkian style of guitar?
Some of the recordings of him, and when Ray Herbo was playing with B.H. Tate, I have some of those recordings, and a lot of that was gleaned from that. A lot of my stuff has been gleaned from Riley Puckett with the Skillet Lickers. He was an incredible guitar player, and then also Gordon McCann. I've got to play with Gordon McCann and Alvy Dooms quite a bit, almost every week, which is wonderful. So.
And Noel Scott.
Yes, and Noel Scott. Yes,
Noel
is
he is also another good Ozarks guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got a lot of very, very good mentors. Very blessed to live in the time I am now because
Amen.
there are not many around. So,
Mm-hmm.
Well, would you guys mind playing another tune?
oh yes,
Sure.
please.
Let's play Ray's Soppin' the Gravy.
Oh, yes. first started getting into old time music, a lot of times at jams, like people will play together, fiddlers will play together. How does that happen if people know such different versions of the same song?
Well, a lot of times the versions are different, but the
Yeah.
timing is the same. So I might have several different notes than somebody else would have that's playing the same tune, but they mix together. Yeah,
Now, some of your tunes, from Ray Curvo especially,
right.
don't. He adds in an extra beat or two
Yeah.
sometimes.
So
Really?
I either have to change
Adapt.
if I'm gonna play, if I learn something from him and it's got a different beat to it or whatever, I have to change in order to play with other people that might play the similar version.
There's quite a few fiddlers who have that habit, and it's good to see, I think, because it means they've usually picked it up and they're trying to preserve it. Because sometimes if you just adjust to everybody else is playing, when you see that, people can be annoyed by it, but I think it's a very good thing.
Beautiful,
that people
yeah.
are preserving what they're being taught. So
Yeah, he taught me those tunes. It's like if I learned something from Ray or my mentor Everett Lloyd or my grandpa Frank or Dennis Pritchard, I try to keep that version. Now, if I'm playing out and about and somebody else has got something else and there's three fiddlers there and they're all playing the other version, I'm going to play with them on that version.
Yeah.
Now, if it's my turn to pick the tune and I'm leading the tune, they've got to adjust to me.
Yes.
Or they can just hang out and not play it at that time.
Okay.
But most people will just play along with you. It's not that much different. But
Okay. Wow. That's one of my favorite sounds on earth is a bunch of fiddles
Yeah.
playing together.
the good thing about fiddle tunes, and the good thing about everybody's got their own versions of things that they've
Yes.
learned, and it's the internet is kind of muddying that water now
Yeah.
because you can hear so many different versions of it, and there's a lot of Appalachian fiddle tunes and styles that's getting picked up. So a lot of the Ozarks fiddling, northern Missouri fiddling's different. Hawken just went up to central Missouri. It's a little different there.
Wow.
But they're going to lose those regional styles over time because they're getting influenced by the outside world, by the internet and all the.
if you allow that to
If
happen.
you allow
But
it
some
to
people
happen.
don't, like
Yeah.
Jeff and other fiddlers we are very close to do not allow that to happen, which is wonderful. So and it's always fine to learn a style, but just to remember what you're playing.
Right.
So just
Yeah.
play willy-nilly. You gotta
And
remember.
what's the purpose of why you're playing if
Yeah.
you're wanting to
Absolutely.
preserve the Ozarks? Like I'll sing a lot of Appalachian versions of tunes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought of it that way.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yep. And it's a cool
That's
sound.
so
That's why it's
important.
tempting. The guitar playing is even different. And it's a very neat dynamic and the sound is very cool. But it's kind of a trap almost, because then you're like, it's,
Yeah.
you gotta remember, this is and I love Ozarks. I mean, Ozarks Heritage Music is by far my favorite. So
Yeah,
it's,
amen.
and the guitar backup is my favorite too, so it's wonderful.
Those doggone Appalachians lured us in again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like down in Stone County, Arkansas, we go down to Mountain
Yeah.
View quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fiddler down there. His name's Nathan Dodds, and he loves to just fiddle Stone County, Arkansas style fiddling. He doesn't
That's it.
allow himself to be influenced by the outside world. He's learned from people right there, older guys that are not here anymore. And he plays their tunes the way they played them in that area, right there, that little pocket. And he's great at what he does.
Yeah. And he's learned some tunes from you.
Yeah.
But he definitely puts his own spin on it every time. He's very good at that.
His
That's a
Stone
hard
County
thing to do.
spin.
Right. He's learned tunes from me, but he puts that Stone County style, Stone County, Arkansas style on it that he's learned from his mentors that lived there their whole lives.
Wow.
It's cool because you do not see that style anywhere. He's the only fiddler I've ever
Really?
met who
Yeah.
can play like that anymore, which is wonderful. But he needs to get a student.
know,
He needs to get
yeah.
an apprentice. But
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, would you guys mind playing another tune?
This is a song my grandpa taught me. You won't hear it anywhere else. I don't know where he picked it up at, but it's called Whitewater, and it's not the banjo tune Whitewater.
Wow.
It's just it's in the key of G. So here we go.
That is such a unique sounding tune.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah,
different.
it's totally different.
I love that
Yeah.
tune.
Yeah, I don't know anybody else that plays it.
Wow.
Grandpa played it, but I don't know anybody else. All right, we're gonna play "Hanging Around the Kitchen."
Sweet.
Much better. There we go.
Yeah.
That's a great tune. Makes me want to go hang around in the kitchen.
Me
Open
too.
up a refrigerator door too.
Uh-huh. That's right. Let's see. Loud.
That's adding to the ambiance.
There you go.
What about that Marmaduke's hornpipe?
Wow, I love that title.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I need to research that a little bit, but we had a Governor Marmaduke
Yeah.
from 1885 to 1887, Governor of Missouri, Governor Marmaduke. So
I think it is named after him.
I think it is.
We
named
talked
after
about
him.
that just the other day.
We'll just dedicate this one.
Yeah, let's do that.
Good old Governor Marmaduke.
Amen.
Now, see this song right here. I don't know. This version is probably, I learned this from Ray Kerbo, but it's pretty close to others, and you can play it with others. David Scribner taught it to Coy, and me and Coy played it together yesterday.
Mhm.
Oh,
So, and
neat.
it mixed. So Marmaduke's hornpipe.
are really unique tunes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. They're fairly popular around here, but there's not that many jams anymore around, old time jams. There's McClurg, and the schoolhouse is a variety,
Yeah.
and
And it's every Thursday.
mm-hmm.
What time does it start?
7 o'clock.
Sweet.
McClurg starts around 7 to
Mm-hmm.
9. They have a little dinner beforehand. We don't have a dinner, but yeah, it's fun. And that's about the only two left around. I mean, I can't think of any more. Can you? Not local.
There's one Reed Spring they're doing for kids.
Yeah,
Oh,
the one
yeah,
on
yeah.
Monday nights in Reed Spring.
Yeah.
For kids.
Is it mostly old time?
It's a variation of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bluegrass jams around Springfield
Mm-hmm.
that I grew up going to as a kid,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize until I was an adult how different old time is from bluegrass.
Did you go to Northview Jam?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I used to go to jams in Springfield. Sophia Wright, that I played music with, since she was 9 years old, we used to go to jams in Springfield a lot. And then they just quit having the ones we used to go to. So.
Okay.
We're going to play the Red Fox Waltz. My grandpa Frank played it. And there's a lot of others that played it. Ray Kerbo played it. Everett Boyd played it. And we're going to play it right now. Jeff and Hawken. That's a good little waltz.
It was beautiful.
There's so many fiddle tunes out there in the world. You can never learn them all.
That's maddening.
Yeah. My mentor Ray, he probably knew 700.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing how many you can learn and play and they come out once in a while.
Yeah.
But even with my list, they don't pop right into my head sometimes. I have to hear a couple of notes
Yeah.
of it. And then, there's been some good kids coming out of the schoolhouse jam. Hawken's fiance, Emalee is a great fiddler. Bluegrass and old time, but they're liking old time better now. But she can do both styles and,
So well.
very well. She's probably the most accomplished one to come out of there. And there's others that are learning real good. Esther's really good, and there's others, and Logan Ben on the fiddle and Kate on the guitar. And there's just, if my grandpa and his buddies were here now, they'd be really tickled that these kids have learned things down there, and then they're showing others what they've learned and passing it along on to others, and going different places and sharing music and meeting friends through music. I mean, there's a lot of people we would have never met if it wasn't for music, you know. And Hawken's just like one of my kids. You know, only better, I can send him home. You know. No, he's just like my son. Yeah, and you know, Briar, one of the best bass players around.
Yeah.
His sister Briar,
Yeah.
can't beat her.
Nope.
She'll be famous someday.
Amen.
Yeah, she's already famous around here.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Are you team old time? Like, is that your preferred?
No, I mean, again, it's not really a preference more than it is an obligation.
Oh.
So it's.
Wow,
I love playing.
That's a great way to put that.
I love playing bluegrass and with everybody,
Yeah.
but old times has a different sense of urgency of music, which is wonderful because it's great because I love playing. But like, it's also a music that is dying out, and there's, like I said, there's not many guitar players left, not many fiddlers left, and I mean it's getting awfully slim. So we gotta kind of step up the game in that aspect and work hard with that. And that's what me and my fiance have been doing. She's a wonderful Ozark fiddler.
Yeah.
But it's just that's kind of where we're at. So it's kind of more of our obligation to do so, and I'm glad that we get to do it. So it's very much a blessing. So, but yeah, it's a very, very, very good world for us to be in. So
It is. Dry branch. Johnny Boyd, the mandolin player from the old schoolhouse jam, he learned that and brought it around, and that's who I picked it up from, a recording from him. He actually saw it on some sheet music, and he didn't read music, but his wife played piano.
Really?
So he just said, "Here, play this. I want to listen to it." She played it, and he goes, "Oh, I really like that." So he started playing it on the mandolin. Then
Wow.
my grandpa started playing it on the fiddle, and Everett and everybody, and then I learned it from those recordings.
I've never heard of anyone learning a fiddle tune like that.
That's how Johnny Boyd was a mandolin player. He also played fiddle.
Really?
I got some recordings of him that I'm getting ready to put on a different, from cassette tape to something else, so we can, and I'm gonna give Emalee Garut copies so she can learn some of those tunes that they played that are not out in the world.
Yeah.
Some different versions of things. But yeah, that's a good one. We're gonna do Lost Goose. I learned it from my friend Everett Gloyd. He's one of my mentors. He was a Taney County native, lived here, born here, raised here. He learned it from his mom, and she was born somewhere in the early 1880s. And we'll talk about that in a little while.
That sounds
Let's see, Lost Goose.
Nice. That's a fun tune.
Yeah, you won't hear that one anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, that's one of them that's not out there. Now I've taught it to Esther. I think Emalee plays it, and a few others, but not very many people play that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Would you mind talking a little bit about your family history?
Sure. What would you like to know?
Oh, whatever you think is pertinent to our Ozarks heritage.
All right. Well, my Michel family came from Switzerland. They wanted to come over before the Civil War, but they couldn't come over here until after the Civil War in 1865. And they boarded a ship at Le Havre, France, and they came over and landed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania around 1865, made their way up through New York to Illinois, down through St. Louis, and then came over and landed in a little area called Pleasant Gap. It's in kind of the central western part of Missouri.
Okay.
And then in the spring of 1885, they actually came down here to where we live today. My great-great and my great-grandpa built this cabin around 1888, but the first cabin was built in my holler here. There's a creek that runs through, and it wasn't too far from the White River, so I think that's one reason they moved down. There was more wildlife, they could go catch fish. They were more prosperous up there at Pleasant Gap. I guess they lived in a framed house, had tillable ground, farm ground, but because my great-great-grandmother was not very happy leaving a framed house with tillable land and coming to this rock pile with living in a log cabin. So
I can imagine.
they built they pitched a tent in the holler the first summer and built them a little cabin down there, and they stayed down there about 3 or 4 years, and then they came up here and built this cabin that we're sitting in right now.
Wow. So when would that cabin in the holler have been built?
The summer of 1885.
1885. Wow.
And then they actually disassembled that cabin, moved it up here on the hill, and reassembled it, and lived here while they built this cabin, the bigger cabin.
Wow.
So, I have a cabin down there right now that is in about the same spot.
Okay.
Where the original one sat.
Okay, you built it?
Well, it's an old cabin, probably built
Okay.
in the 1860s or 70s, and it was actually a family cabin. A Michel girl married into the Rose family, and that cabin sat around 4 miles away from here, and I disassembled it and moved it down here and set it back up and reassembled it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you had other parts of your family that lived right around here too, other than the Michels.
Oh yeah, I've had my grandpa's grandpa. His name was Samuel Knox. He was born in Scotland in 1832. He came here, and he went to he was in the Colorado Cavalry. He went out there for the gold rush, and then he came back here. Had my grandpa's mom, and then my great grandpa Fred. My great great grandpa was Jacob Michel, and my great grandpa was Fred Michel, and my grandpa was Frank, and my great grandpa Fred was 55 years old when my grandpa was born.
Wow.
That was my grandpa's mom, Daisy Knox. She was, oh gosh, she was about 28 to 30 years old when they got married, and he was 55.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What a cute name, Daisy Knox.
Yeah, Daisy Knox.
That
Yeah.
is too cute.
Uh-huh.
And your family has connections with the Boldmans, is that correct?
Well,
Or this property?
yeah, my great grandpa Fred, he was a stone cutter, stone mason. And Sheriff Galva Branson, he lived about 2 miles away from here. And my great grandpa Fred had a lot of diaries, but he never wrote anything about the Boldmans.
Really?
But about 20 years ago, we were transcribing Sheriff Branson's headstone, and there's a rock enclosure around it. And we cleaned the stone real gently, and at the bottom of the stone, in the corner, it said F. Michel.
What?
So evidently, my great grandpa built that rock wall and the headstone for Sheriff Branson. So when my grandma Emma, my dad's mom, was little, she took care of Sheriff Branson's widow. She was old, and she actually, and I don't know if it was his bones or not, but there used to be a little store down by the lake at the Boston Ferry called Sunset Inn.
Okay.
And Sheriff Branson's widow sent my grandma down to get something, and grandma came back by the cemetery and saw some bones and came back and told the lady, and she started crying and said that might be her husband's, some of her husband's bones, because they had exhumed him after he was buried and kind of haphazardly buried him back. But yeah, I didn't know.
That's awful.
I know, it's terrible. Yeah. So anyway, about 7 years ago, I actually bought the fireplace off Sheriff Branson's house and moved it over here to our place and reassembled it, just for our own personal enjoyment, having a fire outside.
Was this house all pretty much gone?
Yeah, there was no house left. It was just
Really?
a fireplace standing
Wow.
in the field. And there was a well top. It had 1887 carved into it. So,
And now lots of people get married in front of the fireplace.
right, a lot of people get married.
It's
in
pretty
front of the
neat.
fireplace, yeah.
There's something else about. I remember you telling a story about Boldmans getting hanged.
Well, in my barn that I have now, that barn was about a mile away from this location. And my friend Everett Lloyd, which owned this barn that I have now, the tax rolls say it was built in 1848. And my friend Everett, that was born in 1920, one of my fiddle mentors, was born in 1920, and he told me that the Boldmans used to hang their horse thieves in there over the rafters. And that barn that I have now, if you ever go to the IMAX and watch Ozarks Legend and Legacy, that barn is in the auction scene where they auction the fiddle. That was the barn.
Really?
Yep.
Neat. So lots and lots of your ancestors have been musicians as well.
Yeah, I don't know if my great-grandpa Jacob played. I'm assuming he did, but my great-grandpa Fred played. My grandpa Frank, and his brothers played, and son-in-law and my great-grandpa's brothers played. So quite a few people. Now my dad did not.
Really?
And then I picked up the fiddle at about, somewhere around 22 years old. My grandpa wanted me to play when I was around 16, and he wanted me to go to Harrison and take fiddle lessons from a guy named Wayne Gord, and I was just too busy and I didn't want to. I was just a teenage boy, and I should have done it, but I didn't do it. So at about 22, he started helping me, and then my grandpa Frank got sick and passed away. So his friend Everett Lloyd helped me for 3 or 4 years, and then Everett had to move away. And I knew about 10 or 12 tunes that I could play pretty decent. And I would go down to the old Mountain Grove Schoolhouse Jam from time to time and play with some of my grandpa's buddies. But I never really applied myself to it until around 2009.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What sparked that?
Went to a family reunion at the schoolhouse, and my cousin Michelle and her family were there, and they got up, and she plays fiddle, and she had taught her kids to play some tunes, and they got up and played, and I just sat there. I didn't say that I played or anything. And then they were out front, and I was like, "Let me see your fiddle," and I played Soldier's Joy or something, and they're like, "You mean you could play and you didn't get up there with us? You just let us play?" I was like, "Well, you were doing a good job. I didn't want to, you know." And then I just decided, I'm going to do this. I'm going to play this crazy thing.
Yeah. When did you start getting interested in Ozarks heritage and music heritage?
I've always been interested in anything about the Ozarks, but probably in my 20s and then 30s, probably early 30s, I'm a member of the White River Historical Society, and I was on their cemetery committee, and we would go transcribe cemeteries and go to historical sites, and I had a lot of good friends on there. Vonda Wilson Sheets and some others that we used to go to transcribe cemeteries and different things, and I've just always been interested in Taney County history and Ozarks history.
What other societies around here would you recommend that are preserving Ozarks heritage?
Well, the Society of Ozarkian Hillcrofters, which I'm a member of, they're probably it's an older group. It was around in the 30s and 40s. It's been revived, and that's been interesting for the preservation of Ozark heritage and history, and especially helping out with the preservation of musical history like that. They support a little group that I belong to called Ozark Mountain Music, which is like passing on traditional Ozarks music and tunes to kids and carrying it on to the next generation, so it's not lost.
And the young man who played with you, Hawken, he was a student and now he's a teacher. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. He's done really good.
Yeah.
He first came to the Schoolhouse Jam about 5 years ago, and he's really a great Ozarks style backup guitar player now. And he's playing with, some people that are top notch. I mean, Ozarks fiddlers.
Yeah.
And, he's, him and his fiance are playing music together now and teaching other people. And Emalee Garut, she's amazing fiddler.
Amazing.
When she first came to the Schoolhouse Jam, She had only played classical, and she got inspired, going down there and listening to different things. And I mean, I enjoy fiddling, but I'm just an amateur.
I don't think that.
Well, I know a lot of tunes, and they're in my head, and I can
Yes.
play them. What I like to do is show somebody a tune that somebody taught me, and watch them twist it into something greater.
Wow.
You know, that's the enjoyment that I get.
So Ozark Mountain Music Association, you guys have a bluegrass camp and an old time camp, is that correct?
Yeah, every summer we have a bluegrass camp in June here at Michel Homestead, and then we have an old time camp in Mountain View, Arkansas in July.
Would you identify yourself as an old time fiddler or a bluegrass fiddler?
I'm mainly an old time fiddler.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really not a bluegrass fiddler. I wish I could do both styles like Emalee does so well, but yeah, she's amazing. But I'm mainly just an old time fiddler.
What is the main difference between old time fiddling and bluegrass fiddling?
Well, it's just a different style. Bluegrass fiddling has a lot of different slurs and I don't know, it's hard for me to explain.
It is.
But it's just a different style.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. I like bluegrass fiddling. I like old time fiddling. A lot of bluegrass stuff is just old time tunes sped up. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that wouldn't agree with me, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah.
You know.
And
you
bluegrass is so modern.
Right, and you can learn so much by playing with different people that play different styles of music.
Yeah.
If you're an old time fiddler and you play with a bluegrass fiddler, you could pick up some things from that. You could pick up things from anybody, even somebody just starting out.
Yeah.
You know, it's always good if you're going to be a good musician to be open-minded.
Oh, certainly.
And just, you know, because yeah, you can learn something from anybody.
Yeah. Which you had several mentors yourself on the fiddle. Would you mind telling me some about your mentors?
My first one was my grandpa, Frank Michel. He was born in 1916, and when he was younger, he played fiddle, and he used to play around for dances, square dances and things, and he liked to go probably drink a little bit once in a while, you know, like most fiddlers did.
Yeah.
And then when he met my grandma, she said, if you want to be with me, you're going to have to cut that out and be better. And he did. I never knew him to ever drink.
Really?
You know? And he kind of quit playing music for quite a while, but then in the 70s, he started playing again.
Really?
And then around 1979 or 80, him and his friends, Everett Lloyd, which is another mentor of mine, he was a fiddler and an Ozark style guitar player, and Johnny Boyd was a mandolin player. They started that schoolhouse jam at the old Mountain Grove Schoolhouse down here on Long Beach Road, east of Branson. And then another mentor of mine was Ray Kerbo. He taught me a lot of tunes too. He was an old-time fiddler and he had his own distinct style. It is Ozarks. I mean, he lived here his whole life. He lived at Blue Eye the last part of his life, but he was pretty much born around Ridgedale area.
Okay.
Down by the Arkansas line. And I learned a lot from him.
Oh.
He was the barefoot fiddler. Yeah.
Man, was he barefoot all the time? Or just when he was fiddling?
Usually when he was fiddling. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, if we were out somewhere and about, he usually wore house shoes a lot.
Okay.
And he'd just slip his house shoes off. And,
okay.
and his feet would be going, you know. And even though his timing was excellent,
Yeah.
But his feet made me not even going in time. I don't know how he did it, but his playing was just perfect. Yeah.
Did your grandpa know Ray?
Oh yeah.
Really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
well?
Yeah, they played together. Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did they play a lot of the same tunes?
Yeah, they played quite a few of the same tunes. See, my grandpa quit playing for years, so he forgot a lot of his tunes.
How did, I guess there really was no surefire way to retain fiddle tunes back then. If you
No.
didn't read music or write music.
Right, just from memory,
Yeah.
you know. And I know a lot of fiddle tunes. If you just called one out to me, I might not be able to take off on it unless I
Yeah.
heard a couple of notes of it.
Yeah.
Then I could do it.
Yeah. Where did Ray live in Ridgedale?
I don't know where he lived exactly in
Okay.
Ridgedale, but in Blue Eye, he lived like east of Blue Eye, the Blue Eye School
Okay.
is where he lived.
Okay.
But yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm not a teacher, but you can follow me around and play with me whenever you get a chance."
Wow.
And I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good one.
How would your grandpa have learned most of his tunes? I know we talked about this briefly before.
I'm sure he learned a lot of tunes from his dad.
Yeah.
His dad was Fred, and he played, and then his uncle played, Rube, and then his brother Lester played fiddle. So there was a lot of tunes floating around out there back then, and they had radios back then. I'm sure it was on the radio.
Yeah.
But there was no recordings to just sit there. I mean, I don't.
Practice.
Right, and practice and practice. You had to retain that from memory, and that's how tunes get changed.
Yeah.
You know, it might be somebody over here in Ozark County heard somebody playing a fiddle tune, and they remember it differently than somebody in Taney County or Christian County, and then, you know, that's how they get changed and rearranged. A lot of times the beat will be the same, but the melody will be a little different. The notes will be different.
I would have probably forgot the titles and renamed lots of fiddle tunes.
Oh, that's how they do. That's how they get multiple names.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Seneca Square Dance.
Seneca
I've heard
Square
it,
Dance.
Waiting for the Federals.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different tunes that get renamed
Yeah.
over time.
So, aside from fiddling, what are your favorite elements of Ozark's heritage?
Well, I like historical sites. I like old towns.
Okay.
I like going to places where there was old towns or old home places, things like that. Love cemeteries. Love old schoolhouses.
Oh,
That's one of my favorites. I always like going around to those, and we've done a lot of that over the years.
Yeah.
Marked locations of different buildings and things, and put them on maps. And a lot of us, I don't do the recording of it. You know, we just go out and find the locations, and then other people transcribe them down or GPS them and upload that information.
Wow, that's such important work.
Yeah. I
Because
want to
in
do
the
more
next
of it.
generation, who knows if
Right.
people will have any knowledge of that.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of places that's been lost
Wow.
that people don't realize now. Even from the city of Branson, there's places that's been lost.
Wow.
Cemeteries and different things.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then the lakes. A lot of things were lost because of the lakes. You know, Table Rock and Bull Shoals.
Wonder how your family felt about the lakes.
I don't think they cared for it that much.
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine floating down the White River with the big bluffs and everything, and smallmouth bass and goggle eye, and then all of a sudden it just gets destroyed?
Yeah.
The The White River, I can imagine it being like the Buffalo, but only 50 times bigger, with the huge gravel bars, everything. I had a neighbor named Jack Harris. He was interesting. He was a float guide on the White River. He left Tennessee when he was 11, moved out to South Dakota, got on the end of the cowboy era, lived in a dugout.
By himself?
By himself when he was 11. Yeah, lived in a dugout. He told me that he lived out by the Badlands, and he said the first car he ever saw, he was riding his horse along, and he heard a noise, and he rode up over this rise, and he said there it was in the creek. I didn't know what it was. And I went down there, and it was the first car he ever saw. He pulled it out with his horse. Yeah. Then he left there, and he came here in the 1920s, and he was a carpenter, and he built a lot of things like Sammy Lane Resort and different things around. And he liked to build flat bottom boats, and he was a guide on the White River. Loved to fish. In fact, when I was born, he took my mom to the hospital the day I was born.
Really?
So I could be born. My dad was working in Springfield.
So what was your dad doing in Springfield?
He was an electrician. Yeah.
Aww.
Uh-huh.
And you're an electrician.
Yep. And I'm an electrician.
Wow. So you learned that from your dad?
Yeah.
Well, that's...
I did.
Man.
Uh-huh.
Everything in your family is so hereditary.
Yeah.
It really does run in the family.
Mm-hmm. Kind of gets passed along.
Yeah. Do you know much of how this place looked when you or before you acquired it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mean the place, how it looked before I got a hold of it?
Yes, if that makes sense.
In 2001?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I bought it from Exie and Rose Michel, Exie was my grandpa's first cousin. He was in World War II, and he met his wife Rose there. She was a German lady, and she hardly spoke any English, and he brought Rose back over here from Germany at the end of World War II, and the place was pretty grown up, and they got like 100 goats to help clean this place up.
What?
The brush and stuff had grown up.
Where'd they get all those goats?
I don't know. I don't know where they got
them. That's crazy, an army of goats.
But yeah, they lived in this house, and they kept building onto it and covered the walls with lath and plaster to hide the logs, and they had a good life together.
Wow.
Exie was a carpenter, and he also hewed logs at Silver Dollar City.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Built different things, and Rose was a waitress, and for years she worked as a waitress. Super nice lady, great cook.
Wow.
You couldn't get out of here without her having to eat something. She always wanted.
That sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when did Exie get through being a carpenter at Silver Dollar City? Do you know around when?
I don't know. Probably early to mid 80s.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. And then he just worked around here, odd jobs.
Wow.
And then he passed away in 1994, and then she was alone. And then we bought it in 01. And it was kind of ran down because, he did a lot of things.
Yeah,
and she had help, but from cousins and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's changed a lot. I tried to take it back to the way it used to look.
Yeah.
Like 100 years ago around here. I've restored the old buildings. My great-grandpa built the root cellar in 1914. It's got the little keystone on it, different things. So I've tried to preserve whatever I could here.
Yeah.
And years ago, in this very cabin, they would pull the furniture out. Neighbors would come over. They would have dances in the cabin, and there'd be kids sleeping along the walls. They would get together and have music parties, is what they called them.
Have you played for lots of square dances?
I played for several square dances, mainly over the last 4 or 5 years since I got involved more with Ozark Mountain Music, because we have square dance workshops for kids, and the square dancing is incorporated into the Bluegrass camp and the old time camp. A lot of times the kids were scared to get out there because they didn't know what to do. But after they learned the moves, then that's what they wanted to do. If we weren't having a workshop on guitar, fiddle, mandolin, or banjo, they were wanting to dance.
Yeah.
So I do like playing for square dances. Another one of my fiddle mentors, Dennis Pritchard, a lot of times he comes over and plays too for the kids, and he enjoys to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great Stone County, Missouri fiddler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whenever they would have these music parties, would it be other kinds of dancing besides square dancing?
Well, yeah, sometimes they probably did waltzes and different things like
Oh,
that.
that's nice.
But mainly probably square dancing and
Yeah.
waltzes. And
I wonder if they ever had trouble with getting in trouble for dancing around here.
I don't know.
I don't know. I've never heard of that around here.
Yeah, I never either.
Having to do the play party moves.
Right. Yeah. I haven't either.
Um,
And I know they had other, not just fiddle stuff. Rockaway Beach, I know when my grandma was a kid, younger, they used to go over there. There was like big band music. Over there that
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. She worked over in Rockaway.
Okay.
She would walk over and then go down the bluff. They had a path. She had a boat, and she would row across the lake to Rockaway Beach. And she worked at a resort there, and then she would come back. And then I have books where Michel family brought in laundry from Rockaway, and they would wash it and then take it back.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
For the guests?
For the guest, yeah.
Your grandma had quite the commute.
Mm-hmm. She did. Yeah.
So did any of your family who played ever play like professionally
No,
anywhere?
not that I know of.
Wow.
No, just for their own enjoyment, kind of
Yeah.
like I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I play just for my own enjoyment and to pass along whatever tunes that somebody else has taught me. I like to pass them along.
I liked what Hawken said about playing old time music is an obligation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
See, they're liking the old time music better and better
Yeah.
over time. At first, they were more into bluegrass, and then they have kind of evolved into more. Him and Emalee got a really good musical bond together. They're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
so excited to hear them together as a duo. I have
Yeah.
never heard them.
Yeah, they
I'll
sound
do
so good.
An interview with them soon.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah, do
well.
that. Yeah.
So, I've only been around for this generation of old time music
Mm-hmm.
preservation. Has there been quite a difference in the last couple of years, last 10 years?
Yeah,
If
quite
that
a bit.
makes sense.
Yeah, as far as Ozark Mountain Music.
Yeah.
Before Ozark Mountain Music, before it evolved into that, it was the
Uh-huh.
Possum Holler Fiddlers.
Were you involved with the Possum Holler Fiddlers?
Only because Sophia Wright was part of it,
Mhm.
and I would go watch her play, try to support them whenever I could, She was one that came to the schoolhouse. She's a great fiddler herself, and a
She's
great
great.
guitar player.
Yeah.
And she went on to Tennessee now. She left and went to Bethel College in Tennessee, and she actually works there now.
That's
I was hoping she would come back. I don't think
There's
she's going
still
to.
hope.
I think she loves it over there.
Oh, that's great.
And now Mary Parker's going over there now from
Yeah.
Mountain View, Arkansas. She's a great fiddler.
Amazing.
Yeah.
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 There's some unbelievable kids.
Yeah.
When would you say this big revival really started happening?
Probably about 10 years ago.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10 years ago. And, Hawken and Emilee's been going to McClurg. There's, David Scribner's over there. He's probably one of the top 10 old-time fiddlers in the U.S., in my opinion.
I agree.
And they're learning a lot from them. And like you said, Noel Scott's over there, great Ozarks guitar player. Alvy Dooms, great, and Gordon McCann goes and plays over there, which they're all wonderful musicians and just great mentors.
Certainly.
And their stories are great too, to listen to the stories.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start going to McClurg?
I went over there, I started going over there probably around 2011, 10. I wish I had time to go more.
Yes.
I could learn a lot
Me too.
from over there, but it's so hard for me to get over there, especially when working and everything. So now that I'm retiring, or semi-retiring, I'm going to try to get over there more often.
Oh, yeah. For kids who are getting interested in old-time music, what suggestions do you have? Maybe of first steps?
Well, the first step is just, like coming to the schoolhouse jam at the Mountain Grove Schoolhouse Jam. Just listen.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to some of these kids that are playing and to get inspired.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some new kids coming on now. Some of the other ones have just went off to college. Now we're getting a new generation of kids coming on, and it's amazing how fast a kid can learn.
Yeah.
It takes me forever to get a song burned into my mind and learn it, and a kid can pick it up in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I really, like I say, it gives me pleasure just teaching them a tune that somebody taught me and then watching them twist it into something great.
Yeah.
And they don't have to play it just like I do. I mean, everybody has their own style, their own lick on the instrument. Guitar, fiddle, banjo, I mean, everybody's different.
Yeah.
And that's what makes music so interesting. If everybody played the same, it would be so boring.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's what's unique about music.
Yeah. And like you said, embracing the regional differences.
Yeah.
Like perhaps in bluegrass, it's more homogenized throughout the
Right.
U.S. and
Yeah, but different styles of old-time fiddling are a lot different.
a lot different.
All the way from East Coast, Tennessee area, Ozarks, Northern Missouri, Iowa, Colorado, Washington. There's all different kinds of old-time styles that's evolved, the regional styles. But that's what makes it interesting.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your woodworker side of the family.
My woodworker side of the family, which is my grandma Emma's, my dad's mom's family.
Okay.
They came from Bohemia in around 1898, and they went to Thief River Falls, Minnesota first, and then they came on down here around 1919. Actually lived next door to my homestead place, the Michel homestead. Here they built a house and a rock barn, and actually they had one of the first. When they built their house in 1923, they wired it for electricity, even though electricity didn't come through here until 1939.
What?
So they had an engine house, and they would charge batteries, and they ran on DC power. So yeah, their neighbor Harry Harding Sr., he was an electrician, and he helped them wire their house.
Electricity really runs in your family.
Mm-hmm. Then it does. In 1999, I rewired that house.
Really?
And my grandma Emma, which she was born in 1921, she said, hey, before you leave there, I want you to go up in that attic above the porch and look between the ceiling and the upper floor. There's a cigar box. I want you to give me that cigar box. I was like, what? She goes, yeah, get me that box. So I did. I found it. And it was full of love letters from my grandpa to her, and along with photos. Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
my word.
Yep. So
Do you have those?
I do. Yeah. And then Heather made it into a book.
Really?
Yeah. If you got a little bit before you leave,
I
I'll try to
do.
find it. I'll call Heather and find out where it's at. But yeah, she put it into a book, and I've got the originals. But it talks about them. He couldn't wait for them to go out on the boat and take photos, and then the boat photos were in the cigar box. Yeah.
You talked about was it Frank's diaries? Your
Fred.
grandpa's?
My
Fred's.
great-grandpa
Fred's
Fred.
your great grandpa.
Yeah.
Do you have those too?
I got one of his diaries.
Wow.
He gave his other diaries to his daughter, Susie, who wrote our family history. And those were out in Oregon, and I've lost contact with that family,
Yeah.
that part of it. But I've got one of his diaries, and it talks about them taking a trip. When he sold this place to his brother,
Mhm.
they were going to go to southern Arkansas for greener pastures.
Wow.
So they loaded up all their stuff, went down there, got malaria chills and sick, had to sell all their stuff, including all their furniture that he could build furniture. I've got one of his dressers he built. And then they had to come back up here and pretty much start over.
Oh my
So-
word.
So he bought the place next door.
Okay.
And then fast forward to 1939 when my grandma and grandpa got married. My grandpa built them their first little log cabin over there. And that's where him and my grandma lived, and my aunt.
Wow.
And then talking about Everett being my mentor, back when Everett was a kid, Everett was born in 1920, my grandpa in 1916. My grandpa carried the mail by horseback. So he would take off and go to the end of Long Beach Road and pick up the mail off the boat that came from Branson, and then he would ride his horse up and deliver mail. And Everett and his mom lived over off Lakeshore Drive by modern day Kanaka Camp now. And my grandpa would make sure he got over there around noon so he could eat lunch with them and play a couple of fiddle tunes with Everett's mom. And that's where Everett learned his repertoire. And then that's where my grandpa learned a lot of his repertoire from Everett's mom.
Wow.
So she was born in somewhere around the 1880 mark.
Wow. Is it Everett Gloyd? Is that right?
Everett Gloyd.
Gloyd.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a unique last name.
Yeah. Well, his grandpa was a doctor, Dr. Gloyd.
Really?
He lived down off Cedar Park Road, which is about 3 miles away from us here.
Okay.
In a big stone house. It's the stone house is still standing.
Wow.
Now the roof and everything's rotted away. It was a beautiful house at one time.
Oh.
But
Man. Sorry, I kind of got us off track from talking about your grandpa's trumpet playing.
oh yeah, yeah. I don't know much about that. I know that my great grandpa woodworker played trumpet, and he would walk my grandma Emma to school every day, and she helped him on the farm over there. She was the only girl and had 4 brothers,
Wow.
but she was her grandpa's helper. She would help him cut sprouts and work the farm, and she had a couple of horses, and they worked those with the hay rake. Maud and Lady were her 2 horses. One was black and one was white.
Oh my goodness.
And then her grandpa woodworker would go up to the school, and even in his 80s, and show the kids that he could still walk on his hands and things like that.
Wow. Can you walk on your hands?
No. If it wasn't for my shoulder, I could.
Really?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, my shoulder's bad.
Darn it.
Yeah.
That could have been part of the interview.
It could have been. I could have done it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, when they first came from Bohemia, their name was Aardvarka, and they changed it to Woodworker because they were afraid nobody could pronounce it. So they just thought, we're just going to change it to Woodworker. We work with wood. and they were stone cutters and stone masons, kind of like my Michel family. They were, my great grandpa Fred and his dad were wood carvers also.
Wow.
I've got one of their carvings.
Really?
My great grandpa Fred's, yeah. Yeah. It's pretty intricate.
It's pretty remarkable that all this stuff in your family has been preserved. So oftentimes it gets scattered or things get destroyed.
I've got quite a bit of it.
Wow.
And I've had family that's given me things that they knew that I would take care of it. And my girls, Carly, Josie, and Addie, my girls are interested.
That's awesome.
So they'll have it someday to preserve it.
Yeah. Did any of your family like to sing that you know of?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
Your daughter's a great singer.
I know. I wish she would.
One of my favorite. Does your other daughter sing?
No.
Really?
They don't. Josie started playing fiddle and stuff, and she was getting really good, but then she became a teenager and was like, done. She could have been really good by now.
Really?
Yeah, she could play Faded Love real well and a couple of others that I taught her.
Nice.
But I don't know. Maybe they'll pick it up again someday.
Yeah. You picked it up when you were
well,
older.
46 years old.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, at 22 I started.
Yeah.
But I didn't do much with it, only about 10 or 12 tunes. I did work hard on the ones that I knew. And then at about 46 years old, I said, I'm going to play this crazy thing.
Yeah.
And I've been trying and enjoying it ever since, but it's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
And met a lot of people through music that I never would have met.
Inspired a lot of kids.
Yeah, I try. But yeah, this was my grandpa Frank's fiddle. I got it after he passed away, and actually I started playing this fiddle probably about 6 years ago. I have another fiddle. It's a Hoff fiddle that I played for a long time, but I wanted to play my grandpa's fiddle, so I had it worked over, and the tone suits my ear, I guess is what you want to say. Every fiddle's different. And, it either appeals to your liking or it doesn't.
Yeah.
I probably got 15 fiddles, and I might play 2 of them.
Yeah.
The rest of them, they just don't appeal to me, but they might to somebody else.
Yeah.
So, and my friend Everett had a lot of fiddles.
Really?
And he gave them to me and told me to give them away to kids that I thought would deserve them and would carry on the tradition of playing fiddle. And I have. He's blessed a lot of kids with fiddles, even though he's gone.
That is lovely.
Yeah, Sophia's got, this is a Maggini fiddle, somewhere between 1890 and 1910, my grandpa's. Sophia Wright's got a Maggini that Everett had given me to give away. Then I had another really good fiddle, Stradivarius copy that Sophia has now. I don't know how old it is, pretty old. Had an 1857 repair tag in it, so it's got to be old. And then other kids have got Everett's fiddles, and I've still got about 7 to give away.
Wow, really? When did Everett pass?
He passed away at 101. So, and he was born in 1920.
Wow.
He was in World War II. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was a...
Really? Yeah. I had a relative who was as well.
Yeah, really? I'll be darned.
I think it was an uncle. Lost my brother.
He had frostbite from over there and different things. Yeah, he was his dad got killed by a train in Branson when Everett was 5 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't know this, and I kind of wish I would have done it. He wanted me to join the Masonic Lodge when I was younger, and I just was so busy, But at his funeral, some of the people talked about when Everett, his dad was a Mason, and him and another guy from Hollister would ride all the way to Galena on their horses to their lodge meeting. To Galena. But after Everett's dad got killed by that train in Branson, those Masons helped him and his mom and his family by giving them jobs, paying them to do tasks so they could make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
'Cause there was no support back then.
Wow.
I mean, there was no social programs or anything. You either worked and you made it or you starved.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's he was a good one.
Yeah.
And, yeah, when my grandpa passed away, he was there for me.
Wow.
Mhm.
That was a great generation.
It was.
Yeah. Well, this has been another edition of Songs of the Ozarks. Thank you, Mr. Michel, so much for meeting with me today.
Thank you. I'm glad I could do it.
And
It was a good time.
Thank you guys so much for watching.